Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
I'm Maya Chin, and for the last 8 years, my family has treated me like I peaked in high school and have been failing upward ever since. It started when I dropped out of the MBA program at Stanford. I was 24, one semester away from graduating, and I walked away. My father, James Chin, was a senior partner at Chin & Associates, a mid-sized consulting firm. My mother had passed away when I was 16, so Dad threw himself into work in raising my brother Kevin and me. Kevin followed Dad's blueprint perfectly. Business degree, corporate job, partnership track. I was supposed to do the same. "You're throwing away your future," Dad said the day I told him I was leaving Stanford. We were in his office, the mahogany desk between us like a courtroom bench. "Do you understand what you're doing?" "I have an opportunity," I said. "A startup needs." "A startup." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Maya, I've consulted for hundreds of businesses. I know what startups are. 90% fail within 3 years. You're one semester away from a Stanford MBA, and you want to throw that away for some tech fantasy." "It's not a fantasy. I've been working with them for 6 months. They want me as COO. Chief Operating Officer of nothing." He stood up, signaling the conversation was over. "When this falls apart, and it will, don't come asking me to fix it." Kevin, who was waiting outside the office, gave me a sympathetic look that didn't reach his eyes. "Dad's just worried about you," he said. But even then I could see the judgment. The older brother watching his little sister make a massive mistake. The startup was called Velocity Pay, a fintech platform for international transactions. I'd met the founders, 2 former Goldman Sachs analysts, through a Stanford networking event. They'd seen something in me, not just my finance background but my ability to build systems, to see 3 steps ahead, to turn chaos into process. For the first year I lived in a studio apartment in San Jose, worked 16-hour days and ate ramen more nights than I care to remember. Dad stopped asking about work. Kevin would occasionally text, "Still doing the startup thing?" with just enough condescension to sting. At family dinners, which became less frequent, I was the cautionary tale. "Maya's still with her tech thing," Dad would say to his colleagues, as if I was playing house instead of building a company. When Kevin got engaged to Vanessa Wu, whose father was a partner at a major law firm, the contrast became even starker. Vanessa's father just made senior partner at Morrison & Webb, Dad announced at Sunday dinner 6 months after I'd left Stanford. Kevin's being considered for early promotion at his firm. "That's great," I said, pushing food around my plate. "What about you?" Vanessa asked. She was elegant, polished, everything my family wished I would be. "Are you still with that payment company?" "Yes. We just signed our first major client." "How major?" Kevin asked. $2.3 million annual contract. Dad sipped his wine. "That sounds impressive until you understand their operating costs probably eat 90% of that." He wasn't wrong, actually. But he didn't know we just closed our series of funding round at a $47 million valuation. And I'd negotiated a 12% equity stake as CEO. I didn't tell him. Something had shifted in me during that dinner. I realized they didn't want to know. They wanted me to fail or at least struggle enough to validate their concerns. So I stopped sharing. Over the next 7 years, while my family assumed I was scraping by in the tech world, Velocity Pay exploded. Our Series B raised $180 million at a $890 million valuation. We expanded to 47 countries. By year 4 we were processing $3.2 billion in transactions monthly. By year 6, we'd acquired 3 competitors and our valuation hit $4.1 billion. My 12% stake, which had diluted to 8.7% through funding rounds, was worth approximately $357 million on paper. In year 7 we got acquisition offers. MasterCard came in at $5.2 billion. Visa countered at $5.8 billion. We ultimately sold to a consortium led by JPMorgan Chase for $6.3 billion in a combination of cash and stock. My take after taxes and legal fees, $340 million liquid. I kept living simply. Not out of some ascetic principle but because I was genuinely too busy to care about luxury. I bought a modest 3-bedroom house in Palo Alto, drove a sensible Tesla Model 3, and dressed like every other tech executive in hoodies and jeans. At family events, which I attended less and less, I remained vague about work. Still in fintech? Dad would ask. Yeah, still there. Paying the bills? Getting by. Kevin got married, bought a house in Atherton with Vanessa's family's help, and made junior partner at his consulting firm. At 32, he was earning $340,000 a year and thought he'd made it. I was 31 and worth 1,000 times that. But I wasn't hiding out of spite. I was protecting myself. I'd watched what happened when people knew you had money. I'd seen founders lose family relationships because suddenly everyone needed loans, investments, bailouts. I'd seen marriages destroyed by wealth. More than that, I wanted to know who my family really was. Not who they'd be if they knew I was wealthy, but who they were when they thought I was ordinary. Forgettable. Unsuccessful. And what I learned broke my heart. Dad turned 65 in March. He'd been planning his retirement from Chin and Associates for 2 years, grooming Kevin to take over his clients and his office. The retirement party was scheduled for Saturday, April 15th at the Rosewood Sand Hill, one of Silicon Valley's most exclusive hotels. The invitation arrived 6 weeks before the event. It was elegant, cream cardstock with embossed lettering. Professional colleagues and family. Black tie optional. Rosewood Sand Hill. Saturday, April 15th, 6 p.m. I was reading it at my desk when my phone buzzed. Text from Kevin. Got the invitation? Should be a good night. Vanessa's dad is giving a toast. His firm just brought Dad on as a consultant. $200K retainer. I replied, sounds nice. Looking forward to it. 3 days later, another text from Kevin. Hey Maya. About the retirement party. Dad wanted me to reach out. The guest list is getting tight. Mostly professional colleagues, partners, clients. Vanessa's whole family is coming, obviously. It's turning into more of a business networking thing than family. You understand, right? I stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Are you saying I'm not invited? The response took 5 minutes. Not exactly. Just that it might be awkward. Everyone there will be talking business, consulting, corporate stuff. Vanessa's dad is bringing the senior partners from Morrison and Webb. It's going to be pretty high-level conversation. Dad just thought you might be more comfortable skipping it. I sat back in my chair. My office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Stanford campus, felt very quiet. Dad thought this. Or you and Vanessa. We all discussed it. Look, it's not personal. You know how these things are. Remember Uncle Tom's thing last year? You left after an hour because you said everyone was just talking shop. That was true. I'd left because listening to management consultants compare billable hours made me want to scream. But that was my choice. So I'm uninvited. Just, maybe sit this one out? We'll do a family dinner the next week, just us. More relaxed. I set the phone down. Looked out at the campus where I'd almost finished my MBA 8 years ago. The same campus where I now sat on the board of advisors for the Graduate School of Business, a position I'd accepted anonymously through a donor trust. I picked up the phone and typed. Understood. 2 hours later, an email arrived from Dad. Subject: Retirement Celebration. Maya. Kevin mentioned he spoke with you about the retirement event. I want to be clear about my reasoning. This is a professional milestone celebrating 37 years in consulting. The guest list includes CEOs, board members, and senior partners from firms across the valley. Vanessa's father is bringing colleagues from Morrison and Webb who have become important clients. Your career path has been different, and that's fine. But I need this evening to be focused on professional relationships and future consulting opportunities. Kevin will be taking over my practice and needs to make the right impression. Having family there who aren't part of that world could create awkward situations. This isn't about your worth as my daughter. It's about appropriate context. We'll celebrate privately as a family next weekend. I read it twice. Then I called my lawyer. I need to liquidate my entire portfolio with First National, I said. Everything. Every account, every fund, every investment vehicle. I want it moved to Wellington Management by Monday morning. My lawyer, Patricia Herrera, paused. Maya, that's $340 million in assets. The tax implications. I've already paid taxes on the acquisition proceeds. These are post-tax investments. I want them moved. May I ask why? First National has been managing my father's retirement accounts for 20 years. Their wealth management division has also been handling his consulting firm's corporate investments. I'm going to let them explain to him why their biggest client just walked away. Patricia was quiet for a moment. I'll start the paperwork. Saturday, April 15th. I spent the day at my house, working on a few advisory board proposals. Around 5:30 p.m., I got a text from my friend Stephanie, who ran a boutique investment firm. You going to the thing at Rosewood tonight? Bunch of our partners are there for some retirement party. Wasn't invited, I replied. Seriously? I thought you knew everyone in this ecosystem. It's my dad's party. What? Why, that's insane. Do you want me to? No. Let it play out. At 6:47 p.m. my phone rang. Patricia. It's done, she said. First National just confirmed complete portfolio transfer to Wellington. $340 million moved as of 6:30 p.m. Their West Coast Director of Wealth Management is apparently trying to reach you. Let her try, I said. At 7:02 p.m. my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was from Catherine Park, Senior Vice President at First National. Miss Chin, this is Catherine Park from First National. We've just processed your withdrawal request and I'd like to discuss this decision. We've valued our relationship with you and would like to understand what led to this. Please call me as soon as possible. I deleted it. At 7:15 p.m. she called again. I declined it. At 7:23 p.m. my phone exploded. Kevin calling. I let it ring out. Text from Kevin. Maya, what the fuck did you do? I didn't respond. Another call from an unknown number at 7:31 p.m. I answered this time. Miss Chin, this is Robert Morrison, President of First National's Northern California Division. I apologize for calling on a Saturday evening, but we've just processed a rather significant portfolio transfer and I closed my accounts, I said. I don't require exit counseling. With respect, Ms. Chin, $340 million in assets represents one of our largest individual portfolios in the region. If there's been any service issue or there hasn't, then perhaps we could schedule a meeting to discuss. Mr. Morrison, I don't need to discuss anything. I've moved my assets to Wellington Management. The transfer is complete. I understand, but your father, James Chin, has been a valued client for 20 years. His firm's accounts, his personal retirement portfolio. We've built a relationship with your family. If this is about something personal. It is personal, I said. It's very personal. And you might want to check with your wealth management team about why their largest client just walked away. I hung up. At 7:45 p.m., Catherine Park made a decision that would change everything. She got in her car and drove to the Rosewood Sand Hill. I didn't know this at the time. I was making dinner, listening to music, completely at peace with my decision. But Patricia called me at 8:03 p.m. laughing. Maya, you're not going to believe this. I just got a call from a friend at First National. Their VP of Wealth Management drove to some event at Rosewood to find your father. I stopped chopping vegetables. She what? She's trying to do damage control. Apparently your father's accounts are significant enough that losing you might trigger a review of their family relationship management protocols. She's there right now. I set down the knife. Tell me exactly what's happening. According to my source, she walked into a retirement party looking for James Chin to ask him why his daughter just withdrew $340 million and if there's anything First National did to lose the family's confidence. I started laughing. Then I couldn't stop. At the Rosewood Sand Hill, Dad's party was in full swing. The Emerald Ballroom was filled with 150 guests. Consultants, lawyers, executives, all the people Dad had spent 37 years networking with. Kevin was working the room with Vanessa, introducing her father's law partners to Dad's consulting clients. It was a perfect Silicon Valley networking event disguised as a retirement party. Dad was at the head table with his oldest friends and his most important clients when Catherine Park entered. She approached the concierge first. I'm looking for James Chin. It's urgent. The concierge pointed toward the head table. Catherine walked through the ballroom, past tables of executives in suits and cocktail dresses, past conversations about market trends and consulting fees. She reached Dad's table just as he was raising a glass for a toast. Mr. Chin, she said. I'm Catherine Park from First National Bank. I apologize for interrupting, but I need to speak with you urgently about a family matter. Dad set down his glass. The table went quiet. I'm sorry, do I know you? I'm Senior Vice President of Wealth Management at First National. We've managed your retirement accounts for 20 years. I'm here about your daughter Maya. Kevin, who'd been talking to a group of partners nearby, turned around. His face went pale. My daughter. Dad said. What about her? Sir, could we speak privately? Is she all right? Has something happened? She's fine. But she withdrew her entire investment portfolio from our institution this evening. $340 million. And she specifically instructed us to speak with you about it. The words hung in the air. Dad's fork dropped. It hit his plate with a sharp clang that seemed to echo through the sudden silence at the table. I'm sorry, Dad said slowly. There must be some mistake. My daughter doesn't have that kind of money. Catherine shifted uncomfortably. Sir, Maya Chin has been a client of our private wealth management division for 3 years. She transferred the proceeds from the Velocity Pay acquisition to our management in 2022. Her portfolio value as of this afternoon was $340 million. Kevin pushed through the small crowd that had gathered. Wait, Velocity Pay? The Velocity Pay that JP Morgan bought. Yes, Catherine said. Your sister was the chief operating officer and held an 8.7% equity stake. That's impossible, Kevin said. She dropped out of Stanford. She was working at some startup. She was, Catherine confirmed. That startup was Velocity Pay. It sold last year for $6.3 billion. The table erupted in whispers. Dad sat frozen, his face cycling through emotions. Shock, confusion, disbelief, and then something else. Realization. She's been wealthy for 3 years, Dad said quietly. And she never told us. She attended several of First National's platinum client events, Catherine continued, not realizing she was making things worse. She sits on 3 advisory boards. She's been featured in Forbes and Fortune. I assumed you knew. Vanessa's father, Thomas Wu, leaned forward. James, your daughter is the Maya Chin? The one from the Fortune FinTech profile last year. Dad looked at him blankly. Thomas pulled out his phone, searched and turned the screen around. It was a Fortune article titled, The Quiet Disruptors, 5 FinTech Leaders Reshaping Global Commerce. There was my photo. Professional headshot, blazer, hair pulled back. Under it, Maya Chin, former COO of Velocity Pay. Current board member at Stanford GSB Sequoia Ventures, and I need to leave, Dad said, standing abruptly. Dad, Kevin started. I need to talk to your sister. Right now. Catherine looked relieved. If there's anything First National can do to repair the relationship. This isn't about your bank, Dad said. He was already walking toward the exit. Kevin ran after him. Dad, wait. Let me come with you. No. Dad's voice was sharp. You stay. Someone needs to manage this. He gestured at the ballroom full of confused guests. Kevin stood in the middle of the rosewood lobby watching Dad push through the doors to the valet stand, and for the first time in his life, looked completely lost. Dad arrived at my house at 8:47 p.m. I watched through my Ring camera as he got out of his Mercedes, still in his tuxedo, and walked to my door. He rang the bell. Then knocked. Then rang it again. I waited 30 seconds. Then opened the door. Hi, Dad. He stared at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in 8 years. $340 million, he said. Yes. The bank president came to my retirement party. I heard. You withdrew everything. Today. During my party. I did. He stepped inside without asking. I closed the door behind him. Why? He asked. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't want to know. That's not true. Dad. You uninvited me from your retirement party because you thought I'd embarrass you. You thought I was unsuccessful. Ordinary. Not worth having around your important colleagues. That's not. He stopped. Ran his hand over his face. Kevin said it might be awkward. Kevin said you all discussed it. You, him, and Vanessa. You decided together that I didn't belong at your professional milestone because my career wasn't impressive enough. Dad sank into my couch. The same couch he'd never seen before because he'd never visited this house. Never asked to. When did it happen? He asked quietly. When did you become this? It's been happening the whole time. You just weren't paying attention. I sat across from him. Velocity Pay raced Series A 8 months after I joined. He never asked. Series B 18 months later at an $890 million valuation. He never asked. We expanded to 47 countries. We processed billions in transactions. We were in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune. You never asked. You never told me. I stopped telling you because you stopped caring. Every time I brought up work, you dismissed it. Still doing the startup thing. That's nice, Maya. You made it clear my career was a disappointment, so I stopped trying to share it. Dad was quiet for a long moment. The night you dropped out of Stanford, I told you 90% of startups fail. You did. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. He looked around my living room. Took in the art on the walls. Original pieces from emerging artists I'd invested in. The built-in bookshelves filled with business biographies and finance texts. The subtle but expensive furniture. This house, he said. How much? $2.3 million. I paid cash. He absorbed that. And you withdrew everything from First National because you've banked there for 20 years. Because their wealth management division knows your portfolio. And I wanted them to tell you at your big professional party in front of all your important colleagues that your unsuccessful daughter just walked away with $340 million. That's cruel. You're right. It is. But not as cruel as telling your daughter she's not good enough to attend your retirement party. Not as cruel as spending 8 years assuming she was failing without ever bothering to ask how she was actually doing. Dad's hands were shaking. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry because I turned out to be successful? That's not fair. Dad, answer me honestly. If I'd walked into that party tonight before Catherine Park showed up and someone asked you about me, what would you have said? He didn't answer. You would have said I work in tech. Doing okay. Not as successful as Kevin, but she's finding her way. Right. His silence was the answer. I leaned forward. I needed you to be proud of me when you thought I was ordinary. I needed you to defend me when Kevin and Vanessa wanted me excluded. I needed you to say, my daughter is coming to my party because she's my daughter and that's enough. But you didn't. Maya. I didn't tell you about the money because I was testing you. And Dad, you failed. You all failed. He stood up, paced to the window. What do you want from me? Nothing. That's the point. I don't need anything from you. I needed a father who believed in me. I needed a family who included me regardless of my success. But I built a life without that. I have partners, mentors, friends who saw my worth before they saw my bank account. So what now? His voice cracked. You just cut us off? I don't know, I said honestly. I know I'm not going to be your embarrassing daughter anymore. I know I'm not going to pretend to be less successful to make you comfortable. Beyond that, I haven't decided. Dad turned from the window. Your brother is going to call. Probably. He's going to apologize. Maybe. But will he mean it? Or will he just be sorry because now I'm someone impressive? You're not being fair to him. Dad, Kevin texted me that his wife's father is a partner at a law firm. As if that was supposed to intimidate me into understanding why I shouldn't come to your party. He has no idea that I sit on the board of 3 firms that could buy Morrison and Webb twice over. I stood up. I spent 8 years being underestimated by my family. And you know what? Taught me something valuable. It taught me that success isn't about impressing people who already decided you're not good enough. It's about building something real with people who see you clearly. Dad walked to the door. Stopped with his hand on the knob. Your mother would be proud of you, he said quietly. Mom believed in me when I was 7 and wanted to run a lemonade stand. She believed in me when I was 17 and bombed the SAT. She would have believed in me at 24 when I left Stanford, and she would have been right. That's the difference. He nodded. Opened the door. Then turned back. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to hide who you were. I'm sorry too, Dad. Sorry that you missed it. He left. Kevin called 47 times that night. I answered the 48th call at 11:30 p.m. Paya, please. What do you want, Kevin? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Vanessa and we just thought. You thought I was unsuccessful and therefore not worth including. Yes, I know. That's not true. We just thought the party would be boring for you. All business talk and... Kevin, stop. You're not stupid and neither am I. You excluded me because you were embarrassed of me. Because your wife's family was going to be there and you didn't want them to meet your unsuccessful sister. Silence. You're right, he said finally. That's exactly what we thought. And I'm ashamed. Thank you for being honest. Can we fix this? I don't know yet. Maya, you're my sister. I love you. Do you? Or do you love the idea of having a sister worth $340 million? That's not fair. Life's not fair, Kevin. I learned that when my family decided I wasn't impressive enough to attend a party. I hung up. The fallout was thorough. First National launched an internal review of why they'd lost a $340 million client. Catherine Park was reassigned. Dad's consulting firm lost 3 clients within 2 weeks. Several of his key accounts were also First National clients who'd heard the story. Silicon Valley is a small world. And Silicon Valley loves a good power reversal story. Kevin's firm suffered too. 2 consulting engagements ended early. The message was clear. Family matters in this industry. But something else happened. Something I didn't expect. 4 weeks after the retirement party, Dad requested a meeting. We met at a coffee shop near Stanford. He looked older. Tired. I've been thinking, he said. About that night. About the last 8 years. And I realized I don't actually know you. I know the daughter I expected you to be. But I don't know the woman you've become. No, you don't. Will you tell me? Not about the money or the success. About you. So I did. For 2 hours I told him about the early days at Velocity Pay, the 100-hour weeks, the near failures, the breakthroughs. I told him about my advisory board work, the founders I mentor, the scholarship fund I'd established at Stanford for first-generation students. He listened. Really listened. I was wrong, he said when I finished. About everything. I thought dropping out of Stanford was the end of your potential. It was actually the beginning. Yes. And I missed it. All of it. Yes. Can we start over? No, I said. We can't start over. But maybe we can start from here. From honest. I'd like that. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But we shook hands and it felt like something. 6 months after that, Kevin and Vanessa invited me to dinner. Just the 3 of us. We want your advice, Vanessa said. We've been trying to plan for the future and honestly we're in over our heads. I could have held the grudge. Could have said no. But I saw something in their eyes I hadn't seen before. Genuine humility. Tell me what you need, I said. Kevin looked at me. We need family. Real family. Not the fake version we've been doing. And we're sorry it took this long to figure that out. I believed them. Not completely but enough. Hey, I said. Let's start from here. Last month Dad called. I'm having a small dinner party, he said. Just family. Will you come? What's the occasion? Your birthday. I realized I missed your last 8 birthdays. I'd like to celebrate this one. I went. Dad gave a toast. 8 years ago my daughter made a decision I thought was a mistake. She left Stanford to join a startup. I told her she was throwing away her future. He paused. I was wrong. She wasn't throwing it away. She was building it. And I'm sorry I didn't see that. I'm sorry I made her feel like success only looked one way. He raised his glass. To Maya. Who taught us that success isn't about following someone else's path. It's about having the courage to build your own. Everyone drank. Later as I was leaving, Dad walked me to my car. Thank you for giving us a second chance, he said. Thank you for earning it, I replied. Driving home through Palo Alto past Stanford's campus where it all began, I realized something. I'd spent 8 years proving I didn't need my family's approval. And in doing so I'd learned something more important. I didn't need their approval. But I wanted their presence. Their real presence. And now finally I had it. The power reversal wasn't about the money. It was about being seen.